We'll get the show on the road at 1 minute after because there's a lot of content to cover, and we want to give people time to interact, and we certainly want to have questions at the end, and we want to leave time for that and for discussion. Welcome, Sharon, for joining. Okay. So I've got 1 minute past. I think we're going to start. Everyone ready?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining. I see quite a number of additional folks that have joined. So I'm sorry I can't welcome you by name, but welcome. Gather around our virtual fireside here, and we're going to dive right in. Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you once again for joining us. My name is Donna Richardson, and I'm the Director of Fundraising Solutions at ST. It's a real pleasure to be with you today to discuss a topic that I think is on every direct marketer's mind: how to keep your edge in uncertain times. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with today's challenging environment, and it is challenging, we need to find a new way to plan and work, especially if we want our fundraising programs to thrive. And let's face it, all of you joined with us today will feel, as we do, continued pressure to grow revenue. It's very real. So perhaps there's a framework we can apply, a new way of thinking or operating that might offer us a bit of an edge. So this is a topic that we're going to explore today with the help of our esteemed panelists, my colleagues, and input from you. So thanks for joining again. I'd like to start us off with a land acknowledgement. While we meet on this virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land, which we each call home, and the Indigenous peoples who have stewarded the land for time immemorial. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and as settlers, to improving our own understanding of Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations peoples that call this nation home. So now just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. We are recording this session, so it will be available to you afterwards if you like. I will send it via email, so please don't feel any pressure to take any notes because you'll get all of the content. I mentioned that we do want to hear from you, and we absolutely do. So my colleague, Carolina, who is kind of behind the scenes, so to speak, is monitoring the Q&A, and she will be doing that throughout the session and throughout our discussion. So please use this if you'd like to post any questions or comments that you might have. Not the chat, but the Q&A. We've allowed about 10 minutes at the end of our formal remarks and presentation for questions and for conversation. So please hold your questions and comments until then, and we'll get to as many of them as we possibly can in the time that we have. Also, we want to have a bit of fun. So we plan to use Mentimeter. Some of you will already be familiar with this tool. It's a bit of an interactive way to get a bit of an exchange in ideas flowing. So we plan to use that. So if you don't already have it close at hand, although I'm sure you do, please have your phone close at hand, and we'll pull up that to give you instructions on how to access Mentimeter. So we have a great panel all lined up for you, and so we want to get through to those folks now and get to some introductions. So Paula, why don't you start us off?
Well, thanks, Donna. My name is Paula Atfield. My pronouns are she and her, as you can see in my picture there, and I'm CEO of ST and a longtime AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals volunteer. And my North Star, Donna, is really helping our clients raise more money. For fun, I enjoy keeping abreast of all the trends in the industry, and I'm excited to be here today, Donna.
Great.
And I'm Liz Atfield, Vice President Fundraising Strategy here at Stephen Thomas. I'm a longtime fundraiser, and I love working on strategies to help our clients drive awesome results and keep their edge. It's so great to be here and see so many of my fundraising friends in the audience. I hope you have a great session. Thanks for coming. Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, friends. My name is Lisa Linehan. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior account manager here at ST. I am on the ground and in the trenches, overseeing and executing my clients' projects on the day-to-day, working both for and with them to get the best results we can. That's us, Donna. Back to you.
Great, you guys. Okay, great, I'm excited. Okay, so now to our agenda. What you'll hear today is possibly a new way to plan for the unknown. Our framework for our discussion is ST's FAST, F-A-S-T philosophy, that's FAST. It's an approach that we use at ST to manage through change. Flexibility, action, sharing, and trust. There are really 4 themes which we're going to use today to really unpack them over the next 40 minutes with the help of our panelists. We'll cover FAST from two different perspectives. The first, the practical perspective. Both Liz and Lisa will share how the FAST principle relates to fundraising program strategy and execution. So they're going to cover that aspect of it. The second approach is the strategic approach, and Paula's going to share some of the dynamic and evolving management lessons that ST uses to really navigate the agency through today's ever-changing climate. And spoiler alert, it's not the same. It's not same old, as you'll discover. So I'm excited to get started. So let's dive right in. And Paula, I'm going to really kick things off by putting the first question to you. I'm curious, when you think about today's changing landscape, what really have been some of the issues that have emerged for you as you navigate ST as an agency through what's become a really challenging time for all of us?
Great question, Donna. It almost seems like an understatement to say right now that times are challenging, but here we are. So traditional fundraising efforts really took a hit at the start of COVID, but we don't need to rehash all that ancient history now. But I will say that just when we thought the worst of it might be over, we were hit with a slew of unforeseen issues. And they hit hard. And so we're now facing supply chain disruptions, including paper chain problems. Rising costs for almost everything. And we have rising inflation and now talk of recession. But to top that off, we have declining donor numbers. We've got a softening of fundraising results as that COVID bubble now seems to be letting out some air, although it's early days yet. We're facing also social change. We've got the Great Resignation. We've got quiet quitting, or whatever you want to call it. And we're hearing the clarion call very loud for social justice. And that's in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. Juxtaposed to all of this, we have climate change. We've got systematic chipping away of democracy around the world. Donna, it's a lot. In fact, I think I'll crawl back into bed now.
Oh no, please don't, because we need you at least for the next hour or so, but I can appreciate that as we're all feeling, it's a bit daunting. So yes, I'm hearing the same. You've covered some themes, Paula, and they all resonate with me because I'm hearing many of those same themes and issues through the conversations that I have with ST clients. I'm curious, I did promise at the top of the hour that we'd get you all involved. So I'm curious to those of you that are joining in what you're experiencing too. Curious, for example, what Paula shared, does that resonate with you? Are there other issues? So I really want to turn it over to you now. We are going to post, and if you can get your phones at the ready, thanks Shola for posting the QR code. If you scan that QR code, those of you that are listening in, I'd encourage you to, it should take you to a live page that will open a browser for our first Mentimeter question. So again, if you're joining in, you can get your phone and it's handy. If you scan the code, I know it's going to take a second or two, we'll be patient. It will take you to the Mentimeter and our first question that we really want to get your input on. And if that doesn't work for you for whatever reason, and there are glitches that come up from time to time, not to worry, don't sweat it. You can just go in the bottom of the Zoom invite. There's the Q&A. And if you click on that, we'll monitor that. And you can go in and post to answer the question, doing it that way. And we'll monitor both, and we can have a little bit of a conversation about it. So our first question, what are some of your biggest challenges in your fundraising roles? What are you experiencing in your own shops? And we've got a really good representation for, oh, we've got great. Let me have a look. You guys are fast. So let's just take a look. I think everybody, can you all see that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, here we go. So, a lot of what Paul has shared, but there's a lot going on there. Not meeting my goals, apathy, lack of investment, declining results, supply chain. You're going to hear about supply chain, rising costs. You're going to hear about that today too. Declining results, diversity and need, lower donor participation, staffing issues. Okay, boy, this is really, I mean, this is almost like opening Pandora's box. It covers a lot. This covers a lot of the challenges that we're all facing. I don't think there's anything here that anyone around this table would say is a big surprise. It just shows how much commonality we have. We're kind of all in this together. So we're going to take you through some of these top challenges today, and I hope we're going to provide you with a framework. That's our aim anyway, to provide you with a framework to address some of these big stressors and issues. It's certainly safe to say that keeping our edge in these uncertain times requires an approach to strategy, and it needs to be a continuous process. I think we can all agree on that. Organizations that will move quickly and be nimble to adopt a more dynamic approach will stay ahead, hopefully, and pull ahead and stay ahead. But those that stick with their plan and kind of get stuck really run the risk of falling irreparably behind. And we don't want anybody at ST or any of our clients or any of you joining today to be in that position. So Paula, in the face of these turbulent times, how would you characterize ST's approach and overall philosophy in the context of managing all of this disruption, or approach to this disruption?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. I just saw that word cloud explode there of the issues that we're facing. And so I just want to acknowledge it's not easy. It's not easy to manage, keep our edge in these times. But the one thing that I often remind myself is that you can't actually manage major issues like supply chain disruptions and recessions. None of us can. And just let that sink in for a minute or two. As individuals, we can't manage global problems. So I just go ahead and lift that burden off your shoulders right now. If all of that word cloud is weighing you down, you're not responsible for things that are happening in our marketplace or the world. And by the way, if you want me to mention that to your boss or board, just let me know. Happy to do that. That said, you can and you must find ways to manage through the times. And hopefully you do that with some grace and with some confidence. It's incumbent on us to do that. And that's where we get into the FAST philosophy that Donna mentioned earlier. And on the bright side, I think we've all weathered storms before, and some of us who are older have weathered a lot of storms, like myself. And I believe then in the past, and I still do, that with the right mix of flexibility, action, sharing, and trust, we can get through and not just survive, but we can thrive. And so this philosophy, this FAST philosophy, has really provided us a framework for keeping our edge. And I hope that some of the principles that we talk about can help our audience today too. At the end of the day, no amount of strategy or tactics, though, is worth really anything unless you're prepared to take some smart risks and implement them in meaningful and effective way. And that's really baked into the philosophy. I hope you'll hear that throughout. We do continue to advise our clients that these times require a certain amount of bravery, right? That's part of the managing through. And also required is increasing investment, and that's for both fundraising and staff. And I'll speak to that a little bit later, and I know Liz will as well. But it means for our nonprofits, it means being great stewards to our donors and our beneficiaries. We can't forget them in the equation. And it means being innovative, that's willing to test and learn. And ultimately, a lot of folks are on digital now. It means offering a seamless experience in that space. We need to be continuing to find ways to connect donors with our donors and with our prospects. And Donna, as you know, I don't want this to sound trite, but our advice to our clients through these times has been to keep calm and fundraise on.
Okay.
Hear,
Oh,
hear.
yeah, hear. Wise words. All right. So thanks, Paula, for that. That's a great start for us, and really a perfect segue into what Lisa's about to share next. So Lisa, your role, I don't need to tell you, but for those of you listening, Lisa's role is really to manage client fundraising programs from campaign design to delivery and market. And for some clients at ST, this means direct mail. That could include and does include print production, supplier, chain management, that kind of thing. So, Lisa, you're closest to the printers, the paper manufacturers, as well as premium providers. So what lessons can you share for us based on your experience related to the first theme, flexibility?
Well, from my vantage point, Donna, flexibility has been key in being able to execute my clients' projects on time and on budget. Listen, bottom line, I can't say to my clients, be flexible. This isn't Cirque du Soleil. I have to offer them options. So we arm them with information that they can take up their food chain to their boards and to their directors. And we do that by offering a plan B, a plan C, whatever we can, to help them navigate these waters and keep fundraising. So let's take an example of a calendar mailing that you might send out every year. It's on thick, glossy stock. It's super pretty. It does really, really well. This year, you found that the price of that stock has blown your budget. And we've seen costs upwards to 60% over last year. So you have to start asking yourself some questions. Are you married to that glossy stock? Or can you entertain the notion of a less expensive, but no less effective paper stock? How about a smaller calendar? The question of options, this is where our production team comes in to offer those different options. So just to give you an idea, they're on the phones with suppliers, both here and abroad, assessing the situation daily, seeing what is currently available and what might be available in the future. They've been going to shops in person, seeing what's on the floor and negotiating on our clients' behalf on the spot in real time. See, this enables us to go back to our clients with options. Now, with regards to premiums, there is the option to remove the premium altogether, but just don't remove the mailing. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So for EcoJustice, one of my clients, we quoted out a budgeted premium mailing, but the budget simply wasn't there. We were running about $10,000 over budget. But we did our research into past mailings, and we found that a matching gift offer was made in the same mailing a couple of years ago. So we removed the premium, secured a matching gift donor, and got that mailing out on time and on budget. Okay, so where else can you be flexible? Let's talk about your audiences. Targeting your appeals to get the biggest bang for your buck. For instance, that calendar mailing that I was talking about, so originally that used to go to your entire donor base. Well, what if you only send it to your high value donors, your monthly donors, or your long time donors? And for those other segments, your lapsed or your lower value donors, maybe they get something else, like a little insert or a brochure that talks about their impact. You might want to take those older lapsed donors and you might want to put them in your acquisition stream. This actually might be preferable at this juncture because with regards to the pandemic, we're seeing that it's been harder and harder and taking longer to get trade lists. Plus, the quality of trade lists is being impacted as people seem to be trading less and doing less acquisition. Now, you can offset this by going back to your older, lower value donors to re-engage them into your program. Now, another sort of kickback from the supply chain has to do with timing. We've had to confirm stock well in advance of our typical timelines, so we can be there to snap it up when stock becomes available. So that calendar mailing, does it need to go out in September, or can it wait until October when the stock might be available? Yeah, you'll probably have to fiddle with your monthly revenue projections. But wouldn't that be better than just scrapping the mailing altogether and miss out on the revenue? And don't forget, friends, there's our other channels that can complement your direct mail. Don't forget, think about phone, think about digital. Now, Liz is going to speak more fulsomely about that shortly. These decisions have to be made quickly. Pricing can change from week to week. And believe me, we're aware of the pressure that puts on our clients. What we offer is the best up-to-date information so they can make informed decisions. And Donna, I think that's at the center of everything we do.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned, you did a bit of a deep dive on production, and it reminded me that Sandy was meant to join us as part of this panel. Sandy, for those of you joining in, Sandy helped head up our production department at ST. We've got a full team, as Paula's mentioned. So, but she couldn't because just the sheer demand and volume of work going through. So it just adds credibility to what you just shared, Lisa. It's full on these days. It's also interesting that because direct mail isn't typically considered an agile channel, certainly not in the same way that digital is, for example, yet you just outlined, Lisa, several ways that we can maintain flexibility, whether it's in our mindset or in actually our actions and our approach, even when we're still talking about direct mail. So I really appreciate that. So Paula, we're going to shift our perspective back from kind of campaign strategy and execution back up to the agency level. I did promise kind of two perspectives. So your role as CEO is meant, at least in part, to equip the team at ST to deliver across our full fundraising offering at ST, which is fulsome. Can you talk to us a bit about what flexibility means at the agency level?
Of course, yeah, of course, Donna. Well, at the personal level, it means doing yoga, which I did this morning. But joking aside, one of the first things we did at ST was really to recognize that, to your point, we had to be more flexible. You have to have a strategic plan in place. That's your North Star. But we also have to be able to respond to challenges in the marketplace quickly and competently, however they come. And that for us meant heavy investment in team and technology. So Lisa's already alluded to paper supply chain issues regarding our direct mail offering. And for that, we ended up actually tripling the size of our print production team to really allow us to be nimble and securing large volumes of paper and envelopes to make sure that we weren't delaying our campaigns. That's a piece of our business. On the team side, we also added project managers to help us deliver faster and smarter solutions so they're able to be flexible. And in terms of breadth and depth of our bench, as we might call it, I knew that we needed to enhance our strategic digital data and overall innovation capabilities as fundraising started to change and to prepare our clients for the future. And so we've hired on the strategic solutions side. Our team has grown there as well. From a tech point of view, like a lot of organizations right now, there was investment as well, just moving the business to the cloud, new accounting project management software, new phone systems, just equipment that would, electronic equipment to help make hybrid and work from home more seamless. And I think a lot of organizations are similarly going in that direction. certainly our clients have recognized the importance of investment and have added staff. I've seen positions such as innovation directors and the like, and I think that's fabulous. And investing, I think our clients are also investing in new ways of engaging donors. Liz will speak to some of that in a little bit. That said, Donna, we still continue to have a scarcity mindset in the sector, which means constantly making the case for investment, and that can be challenging. So we're continually engaging in that conversation, where, when, and how nonprofits can make the case for investment with their bosses and with their boards, for example.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, just on your last point, Paula, I mean, so, and you know this because you're living it. You just made the point. When times are challenging, people kind of retract or rather than look outward. And so it becomes really the easy solution, although it's perhaps in some cases is misguided to limit investment at the very time that perhaps they might be able to expand. So I appreciate that. You shared, you kind of helped us get a sense of, agency getting ready from a flexibility perspective. I want to kind of shift back to and bring you, Liz, into the conversation because you've been sitting patiently waiting to focus on action. And your role at ST, Liz, gives you a lens across all of our client programs, which includes integrated solutions, more mainly, but it also includes branding, includes digital first, budget forecasting and testing and donor surveys and much, much more. So there's kind of a full range there. Across all of that and even more, what does action, how do you apply this to strategy development at ST?
Okay, thanks, Donna. The message that I really want to get across today is that you cannot underestimate the importance of taking action at times like this with everything we're going through right now. And it may be hard to realize this, but I think that the disruptions that we're facing actually present a really unique opportunity to reflect on everything we do from fundraising and our own personal lives. And we can use it as a time to learn and grow. So that's why A is the second part of the FAST philosophy. So how do we take action? Well, my first tip to you guys is this. When I think about it, the most success that we've seen in the past couple of years are with organizations who have acted quickly to take a more dynamic approach to their strategy. So my recommendation to everyone today is to step back, pause, and consider your fundraising strategy and approach in light of the environment that we're in. You may have done this, some people haven't. And when you're thinking about this, if your strategy won't get you to your goals, you need to have a rethink. So let me give you an example. I was at AFP Congress the other week, and I was talking with my new friend who's a fundraiser who fundraises in Australia but lives in Canada. And she was telling me about a dilemma that she faced at the beginning of COVID, when in Australia, the rules were loosening up a bit. Now, they were also suffering from supply chain issues, and she knew that she had to get more new donors in the door for her cancer charity, and that she wouldn't be able to do a mailing in time. So what she did was shifted her mail acquisition investment and instead put that into face-to-face fundraising, which she had paused when COVID closures began. So by shifting that investment, she was able to ramp up her face-to-face again in a time where there was hardly anyone else in the market. And she did exceedingly well in getting new donors at that time because the market was quiet and because she had the foresight to pivot in that way. So the second example is I want you to be open to thinking differently. So that means put on your entrepreneurial hat and look at your fundraising through a different lens. For example, you can review your fundraising technique, what you're sending donors in fundraising for appeals and for stewardship. And again, ask yourself, are these methods still effective today? Am I using all the channels that I should be and can be, because donors are becoming used to that? And ultimately, will you meet your goal? And Paula alluded to this earlier, but don't forget to step back and really consider the ways that your business practices are working. And there's things that we've had to adapt to, like working from home, and maybe that's something that works well for your team and you can continue that, or maybe not. My next point that I want to raise under action is about being innovative. And if you're thinking that innovation has to be huge and costly, you're wrong. It really doesn't. And a small change can be innovative and have a huge impact. And that's something we have to remember. Think about all the examples that Lisa gave us for direct mail. Many charities still use direct mail as a great source of new donors and lots of revenue for not-for-profits. And when I think about the organizations we've worked with, for example, ALS Canada or Alzheimer's Society of Canada, we've really taken the time to optimize their direct mail program with changes here and there, and that's had a great impact on their revenue. Sometimes, however, innovation does require strategic investment. And we know that much of the focus in innovation and fundraising right now is around the use of digital, mostly because during lockdown, we all came very adept at using digital. The use of online channels really ramped up, and now we're more familiar, and the trust of this channel is huge amongst all generations. That's why our team at Stephen Thomas really jumped into action in 2020 to ramp up multi-channel campaigns, for example, and digital testing. And we advise clients to invest in these new approaches, different channels, and trying new asks and offers to explore new sources of fundraising and address some of the challenge that some of you are facing now. I wrote them down. Aging donor base, for example. So that's when digital comes in as a good channel to try to reach out to new audiences that you may not be in contact with at the moment. And right now, actually today, we're working with organizations like Oxfam Canada or St. Michael's Hospital, and we're helping them mobilize these new groups of supporters in ways that are different for them, but are proving successful.
Thanks, Liz. That was a great overview. I'd like to dive down a little bit deeper if we can. I'm glad you mentioned Oxfam and St. Michael's Hospital Foundation, because those are two examples where it's kind of a digital first solution, which is not to say that direct mail is dead, because it absolutely is not. But in those two instances, it's the strategic solutions really delivering a digital first solution, which is great. Speaks to your point about action. Just if I can pull back the onion a little bit and ask you just to expand and maybe perhaps provide a kind of a deeper dive into the innovative actions that people can use or we might consider to enhance our fundraising programs in our own shop.
Yeah, sure. Of course, Donna. One thing I want to make clear for people who haven't worked with the team at ST is that our strategies are highly customized for each client. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we've been working on, but just with the caveat that what we recommend is different for whoever we're working with and based on their needs. Okay, so as some examples, I would tell you that many of our clients are still relatively new to digital fundraising, and lots of charities are. And this is the story for clients like the Alzheimer's Society of Canada comes to mind for me, as well as several other clients, where we took the time and we added some impactful email series that went to donors and subscribers and other names on their email list. And quite often we aligned those with the campaigns that were in market through the mail, for example. We also did other things like update web banners. We added pop-up donation forms. And quite often we spend a bit of time to streamline the online donation process, which makes it easier and faster for people to give, and also takes into account the fact that many people use their mobile devices now. So all of these sort of initiatives usually result in additional revenue for minimal time and minimal cost. And in the case of one of our clients, I'm really proud, and our team is proud to say that we have helped them elevate their digital revenue over the past couple of years by over 400%. So just putting together this thoughtful strategy has really helped them bring in more money through this channel, and it's just opening more doors for them. On the other hand, we do work with organizations who already have a pretty good foundation of digital fundraising. And so in those cases, we may suggest investment in different areas of testing. And just to loop back to clients like Oxfam Canada, this is an interesting case, which I can give you a bit more detail on. So for them, we're doing an online monthly donor acquisition strategy, and we're using agile methodology, which for people who aren't too familiar with agile, what you do is you have weekly scrums as the campaigns are in market. And in those scrums, we identify what's working and what's not, and we fix what's working, and we enhance anything that needs a change to make it better. And this helps to grow your fundraising revenue as you go. So you're just improving as you go along instead of waiting till the end to refine and change things to make them better. Now that said, there's lots of other ways that fundraisers can take action in the digital space, which you see on the screen here. So things like deeper dive into Google Analytics, which offers us a wealth of information for free that can help you improve your website and strengthen conversion rates. Use of SMS and text is really coming up a lot, not so much for getting donations, but a lot of times for stewardship and to support campaigns. That can be great. QR codes, you know, they're all over the place now. I saw a TV ad last night with a QR code on it, and those can be used to take you to the donation form or to give you more information. And video, of course, is another great way to tell your story, and that can be used in lots of channels. And, you know, like you said, Donna, there's lots of things beyond digital that we do, like donor file audits to give us insights into our databases, donor journey mapping, brand initiatives, cases for support. And there's a new thing called the JAM Collective, which Paula will touch on a little bit later. But as you can see, Donna, and everyone who's watching, there's lots of things going on, lots of areas you can take action and see your fundraising results improve.
Yeah, well said, Liz. My goodness, yeah, there is a lot. There's never been so much opportunity, technology, and opportunities for innovation than we have today. There's absolutely no question about it. Thank you for touching. I mean, it's high level and highlights, but it's great to be reminded of some of these techniques and tools and ways of approaching.
Right.
And the key, as you said, is you know, not to be afraid to test and approach, and to focus on taking action where you can. So we want to open this back up again to those of you listening in. You've heard a little bit from Liz and from Lisa and Paula, ways that we're approaching all of this, but we also want to hear from you. So Shola, if I can tap you again, I know you're behind the scenes, to put up the Mentimeter once again for everybody listening in. Thank you, Shola. And then we'll get to our next question. So the question is, have you tried anything new? But really what we're interested in is, what is it that you tried that's new? So maybe it's diving deeper into Google Analytics or agile tests or dialing up digital. So I encourage you, those of you who've got your phones, to type away. Looking forward to hearing your comments and seeing your comments in the Mentimeter. We'll just take a few minutes to do that. And again, if you're not able to do that, no worries. We've got the question and answer, and you can pop your replies in there. So, okay, great. I love the use of video. We're seeing video thank yous. Not yet, but they want to another video embedded in email and social. That's great. That's great. Digital acquisition. Thank you, texting. Okay, so Liz, you talked about SMS. There you go. So
Good.
you exactly for what you were talking about, which is on the stewardship side of things.
Good.
Dialing up digital, working to improve tracking capabilities on our website. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. That is part of the work that we're doing with Oxfam Canada through Strategic Solutions, is doing that very thing. Adding a mailing to, okay, someone's adding another campaign, a mail campaign. So mail isn't dead. People are adding campaigns. Perhaps you've had to go to your CEO or board to get additional investment in that regard. I'd be curious to hear at the end if that's the case. Getting pushback from leadership. Oh boy, okay. And deep dive into email campaign response by effort, A/B subject line testing. Good. Okay, good. So this, I know we're just scratching the surface, but this is great because just by, oh, and there's more coming through. Oh, scarcity mindset. Oh no. Yeah. So remember Paula's offer that, you know, sometimes you need to push back and let somebody outside of your organization have those difficult conversations. So don't hesitate to get in touch and tap us to bring that perspective or advocate on your behalf if in fact you think you need that, because it's really difficult to fight against a scarcity mindset. But education is power, and particularly when you can share other examples. So thank you everybody for participating and playing along with us. We really appreciate that. Really great to see some of those things. There's a lot happening. So we just heard, Paul, we just want to bring it back to you again. We heard from Liz a moment ago about action as it relates to program strategy. So I'm curious to hear really your thoughts, bringing it back up to the agency perspective. If you can maybe take a minute, Paula, to talk us through how you've used action as a framework to manage through these difficult times or these challenging times.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. I mean, one of the ways that Liz talked about innovation, she talked a lot about it. And one of the ways that I approach innovation is we have something that I like to call speedboats of innovation. So we send these little boats out of our ST mothership, for lack of a better word. They're little tests. And if a speedboat sink, it doesn't harm the mothership, right? But we do come out with our learnings from that. And if that speedboat is successful, then great. We send out other little ones in its wake, and we build on the successes that way. And I always like that metaphor. And it keeps us on our toes in terms of what we're doing for our clients as well. Like, for example, we're just in the process of launching the Jam Collective, which is just about monthlies. And the idea there is to gather nonprofits in Canada and the US to really undertake an investigation into what makes great stewardship of monthly donors, gathering that data, reviewing the results together collectively with a mind to ultimately helping participants retain and build loyalty with their monthly donors. As we all know, it's way more cost effective to keep a donor than to lose a donor. And there's been a lot of emphasis lately put on acquisition, but what about retention of those donors? I know if you're like me, you give to many charities, many organizations, you often don't hear from them at all as a monthly donor. Closer to home, another innovation has been the launch of our 4-day work week. We fundamentally believe that people work better when they live better. And so that's what we're aiming to do here internally. And I think in turn that helps the organizations that we work with. We're also leaning into inclusion, diversity, and equity in both our hiring and our learning. And I know I'm personally doing a lot of unlearning, because we really do better when our teams reflect the world as it truly is and reflect our clients as well. And so I think altogether we're able to find better solutions to today's challenges, particularly when we're action oriented, Donna.
Great, thanks, Paula. Okay, so I'm a bit mindful of time, guys. We're 15 minutes before the hour. So I just want to put a spotlight on that as we finish off the balance. I know that we've got a little bit more to go through. So I'm going to turn it over really to you, Lisa. Just want to get your perspective on the kind of the last section of the FAST philosophy, which is where we put the ST in FAST, and that relates to sharing and trust. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Donna. So sharing and trust are the warm, gooey center of the FAST philosophy, if you will. But I want to take these two items very separately, and let's start off with sharing. And I want to look at that through the lens of sharing resources. So I think everyone remembers in the big old early days of COVID, when the postal services were impacted. Direct mail teams reached out to their digital departments to help them contact their donors online with emails. Events teams were hamstrung due to the cancellation of their events. They went to help via their digital and direct mail teams, sharing their data of event donors and participants to engage them and keep those conversations alive. That sharing enabled some of the great results that we saw coming out of that crisis. So here we are again. The landscape has changed, but a problem shared is a problem halved, and this is no time to be siloed. We really have to gather our teams together, share those resources, because everyone needs to understand how crucial it is to keep talking to donors, because you've set up the expectations in their minds that you will speak to them. And that brings me to trust. Trust is the cornerstone of any solid relationship, and that trust is fulfilled when expectations are met. Okay, so in our context, our clients expect us to come to them proactively with information, so everyone is prepared to address issues before they even happen. And that's what we do. We've established solid relationships with suppliers, some spanning decades, and it's because they've earned our trust by meeting and sometimes exceeding expectations. Trust is something that is earned. We work very hard on garnering that trust every single day, and it's not always easy. What relationship worth maintaining ever is. But we emerge stronger because expectations have been set, they've been met, and trust has been established. So for you and your donors, you have to earn their trust as well. And donors have expectations. They expect you to reach out to them, tell them what your problems are. They expect you to offer them opportunities to help. That's why it's so important, even now, especially now during these turbulent times and with all the issues that we're facing, to reach out to them however you can. And don't forget, you will, or there is the expectation rather, that you thank them and that you receipt them on time. Make sure you have those materials. Schedule their prints throughout the year, the sooner the better. And also ensure that you have all of those type of assets available digitally as well. It'll deepen the trust that donors have in you. Flexibility allows you to take action using whatever resources you have with the help of other shared resources, so you can deliver on the expectations of your donors to sustain the trust that you're working to earn. So I guess those are my key takeaways for sharing: is share your resources, pull in your teams. It's not a time to be siloed, gather up the wagons. And trust is something that is earned. We have to earn it, and you have to earn it from your donors. Just meet their expectations. There you go, Donna.
Thank you, Lisa. That's good. That's great. Yeah, you know, if I had a if I had a nickel for every time I've heard that, you know, fundraisers bemoan that there's not a direct line with communications, and then communications bemoans the fact that they're not understood by fundraisers. And I just think if we could just reach across the aisle, we'd be so much better off. So thank you for that. Paula, I'm going to give you the last word. Final thoughts on ST's FAST philosophy to wrap us up this afternoon.
Thanks, Donna. Well, you know, it's always about the big picture hopefully for all of us. What's your strategy? What's your vision? And for us, FAST just helps ground us in that. I think it's also about staying, focusing on constant improvement. Innovation, as I mentioned, is a huge part of that. That's our speedboats. But there are many reasons, despite all that's going on, there are many reasons for optimism. At the end of the day, despite all of those challenges, we've weathered storms before. And I've always thought of direct response as recession proof. Now I'm going to sadly add pandemic proof, as our average donors really are continuing to give generously, which they always have. And when they see the need increase, their gifts increase and their giving increases. I believe very strongly that's not going to change. That said, we do have to make sure we continue to tell our stories in a compelling and authentic way. We need to find new ways of understanding our donors, reaching them. And really, on the bright side, again, we move forward with the knowledge that we've gained from past recessions, emergencies, and all kinds of issues. And as I said off the top, and I'll finish here, is we can't manage all the challenges that loom large in front of us in our world right now, but we can manage through them. And I hope we have some takeaways on that for our audience today. I know we've covered a lot. And while I don't wish for another trial like the pandemic, I do know that whatever the next test is, the next challenge is, we're going to get through it together and by sharing information.
Thank you, Paula. Thanks, Paula. That's great. That's a great way to wrap up. So thanks to you, Paula, and Liz, and Lisa, for sharing, tools and most importantly, a framework for navigating what has become a really challenging time. But, main takeaway, or certainly one of my key takeaways, is that we can not just keep our edge, which was the focus of today's conversation, but that we have actually more power than we give ourselves credit for. So, and if we don't personally have it, we can reach out to people who we trust and who we work with, who can help us.
And I want to just add thank you to you, Donna, and Carolina and Shola, who are behind the scenes as well.
Yes, thank you for that. Thanks. So this that wraps up our final remarks for today. And so we did promise some time for questions, and we do have some time. We've got about 7 minutes, which is a little bit less than we thought, but nevertheless, we're happy to take questions from you. So please, if you haven't already, and there's something that's on your mind, drop it into the Q&A, and we will be looking for that and monitoring those questions as they come in, so that we can have a little bit of a conversation at the end, which was our intention all along. And just while it's up, if you do want to get in touch with us, please take note of my email. Happy to talk with any of you, all of you, about any questions that are on your mind, and we'll be sure to send out the recording of today's session so that you have it as at least as reference. So I do see, I think there's a question coming in. Just looking, I do see a question. Okay, so got a question. Liz, this might be directed towards you. So I'm going to read the question to you, okay, Liz? So given the rise in paper costs and supply chain delays, can ST speak to how you have pivoted to digital, if at all? In other words, are your clients redirecting spend to digital channels now and away from direct mail? That's really the first question.
So great question. Especially with the supply chain delays and the rising costs, there sure is a temptation to cut and to redirect. Without knowing the rest of the program and the greater context, I wouldn't advise necessarily cutting everything and putting it into digital. And here's why. The first thing, Donna, that comes to my mind, and maybe this is old news, but is about 10 years ago, American Cancer Society cut their acquisition program out entirely. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. They did it for a year. It affected their number of new donors. It affected their event revenue. It affected their program for 5 years. It took about 18 months, and then they reinstated their direct mail program. So I would say for sure, don't cut it entirely. I think, you know, maybe relooking at your budget and pivoting some of the investment to get some decent tests in. But if the majority of your database is direct mail donors, then for sure, I wouldn't take the money out of that and shift it entirely to some other initiative, whether it's digital or not. So that's a short answer. Whoever had the question, feel free to email me. Happy to have a deeper conversation on that. But in the meantime we have left, that's kind of my response there, Donna.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Yeah, I remember that. It made big news at the time. And the fact that you still remember it 10 years later,
Yeah.
that is really something. It was quite the thing, and it was written up in all the trade magazines at the time. They lost millions given the scale of their program. It was huge.
Yeah.
There is another question, and Lisa, this one might be best directed to you.
Okay.
So I'm going to read it out to you. Lisa, you spoke about changing or adapting premium campaigns. Did any of this have any negative effect on results? We have so much riding on our campaigns that making changes seems risky. Can you please speak to this?
So for the example that I cited for eco-justice, that was for house donors. And as we know, house donors, you know, they react differently to premium mailings than do acquisition donors. So in the case of eco-justice, pivoting away from that premium to that matching gift offer, we figure it was a pretty safe bet given past response for house donors. We're confident it's going to do well. I'll be absolutely transparent. I haven't gotten those results yet because it was something that we had to do this year because of this year's supply chain issue. So we look forward to the results. We're pretty confident though that it would do well. For your acquisition stream,
Yeah.
you have to sort of look at it as making smart choices, taking smart risks. So for instance, if you are mailing out an acquisition package that has labels and a notepad and a pen and string and you know, the kitchen sink kind of mailings that we see sometimes in the mailing, if you can cut, you know, a couple of those pieces out in order to mail, in order to get your message out there. I think that's the most important part. Will you take a hit? Hard to say, but one more thing I could add. There are a lot of people in the marketplace, you know, in prospecting, that sometimes when they receive so much stuff, sometimes it works and sometimes it's a bit of a turnoff as well. So it's probably best to find a happy medium. So you might want to maybe cut a few things just to stay within your budget. Getting the mailing out is the most important thing, I think.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. I'm just looking at the time. I'm going to sneak one question in if we can. We're probably going to need a quick reply. We've got 2 minutes left. How do you suggest, Lisa, this may be for you or Liz, how do you suggest lowering the cost of an expensive premium without compromising the response? You've got about a minute, Lisa.
I will say if it's a question of paper stock that you're talking about, see if you can do it with a cheaper brand of paper. If it's a large notepad, bring it down, make it smaller, something.
Test, I would add to that. I think sometimes it's best to test on a smaller segment or look at your segments if you can, who are premium responsive versus non-responsive by premium. Because sometimes you will find a distinction there. So you could keep, maybe if you can have print the expensive premium and try that and try an inexpensive premium on a different part of your audience. And that's an idea too.
Thanks, Liz. Folks, we need to wrap. We're just almost at the hour. And again, I want to say thank you to our panelists, Liz, Lisa, and Paula. And thank you so much for joining us today from home or wherever this webinar finds you. We really appreciated the interaction and for you taking a bit of time out of your day to spend it with us. I hope you got something out of it, even if it's a tip or two that can help you change either your approach or an action that you might take, we're all in this together, and we're better for coming together and sharing ideas. So really appreciate the opportunity. If you want to get in touch, please email me at donnarr@stephenthomas.ca. Thanks again. And on behalf of all of us at ST, including those behind the scenes, Shola and Carolina, we wish you every success in your work.